Welcome, boys and girls, to our lesson today in volumes of cylinders, cones, and spheres. First of all, I have the formulas for each that we're going to be using. So for cylinder, volume is pi r squared times the height. So remember, pi r squared is the area of a circle. So it's the area of a circle, which is the base of a cylinder, times the height of the circle. For a cone, it's 1/3 of the size of the corresponding cylinder. So it's 1/3 pi r squared times the height. And for a sphere, this is an interesting formula. It is 4/3 pi r cubed. And for all of our examples today, for pi, we're going to be using 3.14. And also for our examples, we're going to be rounding to the nearest hundredth in my video. Now you'll have to pay attention to see if it's anything different in the examples that you're working with. Okay, I'm going to go over an example of each. Here is our cylinder. So to find the volume of a cylinder, I'm going to use my formula, which is volume equals pi r squared times the height. So I'm going to write that down. Now, it's r squared. 8 is the diameter. So if the diameter is 8, then the radius is just half of that, or 4. So I'm going to be using 4 for my radius. The height here is 12, so that's our height. Okay, so I'm going to do volume equals 3.14 times 4 squared times the height, which is 12. And when I type that in my calculator, I'm going to get my volume equals 602.88. And then my units are inches cubed. Volume is cubic units. Okay, it's how many little cubes I can fit in there. So 602.88 inches cubed. Okay, I'm going to move on to my next example if you need to pause. Alright, in my next example, we're going to be working with our cone. So for our cone, I'm going to be using the formula volume equals 1/3 pi r squared times the height. So it's the cylinder formula, just times 1/3, because this cone is 1/3 the corresponding cylinder that it would create. Okay, so again, my radius is 6 right here. That is only half the circle, so that's the radius, and 14 is the height. And notice the height goes through the center of the shape. It's how tall it is in the center. That is my height. So I'm going to do volume equals 1/3 times 3.14 times 6 squared times 14. Now in my calculator, guys, I'm just going to type in 1/3 is 1 divided by 3. Okay, you can also write it in as a fraction, but don't just put 0.3 because your answer will be off by a little bit. So you got to make sure that you use 1/3, just 0.3 repeating. So I think the easiest way is just to do 1 divided by 3 in your calculator. So 1 divided by 3 times 3.14 times 6 squared times 14. And when you type that in, you get 527.52 feet cubed. And that is my answer there. Okay, and for our last example, I'm going to move on to the sphere. And for the sphere, we're going to use our formula, which is volume equals 4/3. Again, I'm going to do 4 divided by 3 in the calculator. Pi r cubed. So volume equals 4/3 times 3.14 times my radius is 4. Remember, 8 here is the diameter. That's the whole circle, so I want just half the circle, so my 4 is going to be my radius. So times 4 to the 3rd power. Remember, in your calculator, you got to use your little caret button. So you can do 4, the little caret button, which is like the arrow pointing up. 3. Okay, when I type that all into my calculator, I get a crazy answer that goes on forever. So I'm going to go ahead and round that to the nearest hundredth. So volume equals 267.95 centimeters cubed. Again, volume is always cubic units. Okay, so those are the 3 shapes we're working on today. If you need to rewatch any of those, go ahead. Make sure you're using the radius. So if I give you the diameter, you have to make sure that you go back and figure out what the radius is. All right, have a wonderful day.